Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if asking questions actually helps you get what you want in life, especially when you're trying to secure a deal or reach an agreement with someone else? Well, this new study dives deep into that very question, and it turns out the way we ask questions might be more powerful than we ever imagined. Imagine you are trying to negotiate something important, maybe a salary raise, a deal for your business, or even just deciding what movie to watch with a friend. With so many everyday situations involving negotiation, the researchers wanted to know if there was a simple communication trick that could help us all win more often. They looked at tons of conversations and ran some smart experiments to find out. You know how sometimes you're talking to someone and you're just trading statements back and forth, like, I want this, and they say, well, I need that. The researchers noticed that in negotiations, people often do this a lot, but they wondered if there was a better way. Instead of just stating your case, what if you asked more questions, and not just any questions, but a specific kind of question? They looked at over 60,000 speech turns from nearly 300 negotiations. These were real negotiations where people were trying to reach an agreement using something called integrative negotiations, which basically means there was room for both sides to get what they wanted by trading different things. It is not just a win or lose situation. What they found was pretty surprising. People actually don't ask that many questions during negotiations, especially open-ended questions. Those are questions that start with words like what, how, or why, and they really get the other person talking. Instead of being asked frequently, these kinds of questions popped up only about once every 4 minutes. That is a small slice of the conversation pie. But here is the really cool part. The study found that the people who asked more open-ended questions consistently got better personal results on their own. This wasn't just a guess. They looked at all sorts of data, and in every case, asking more open-ended questions led to better outcomes for the person asking them. This connection was strong and reliable. What about other types of questions, like those you can answer with a simple yes or no, or just making statements? Turns out those weren't nearly as effective in helping people achieve their personal goals. Asking closed-ended questions or just making statements didn't seem to make much of a difference for how well people did. To make sure it wasn't just a coincidence, they ran experiments. In one study, they had almost 1,500 people negotiate online in a chat room. They split people into groups. One group was told to ask open-ended questions, another group was told to ask closed-ended questions, and a third group was told to basically just make statements, no questions allowed. And guess what? The people who were told to ask open-ended questions did way better. They achieved higher personal gains than both the closed-ended question group and the statement-only group. It seems like that open-ended questioning style really unlocks better results. They even did another study where they had people prepare questions before the negotiation started. One group brainstormed open-ended questions, and the other group just thought about general things to say beforehand. And again, the group that prepared open-ended questions actually did better during the actual negotiation. This suggests that even thinking about asking good questions beforehand can make a big difference. So why does this happen? The researchers found that the magic of open-ended questions lies in information. They encourage the other person to share more details about their priorities, their concerns, and what they truly want. When you know more about what the other person needs, you can find ways to create more value, meaning you can make the overall deal better for everyone involved. And when the pie gets bigger, there is more for you to take a slice of. It's like this: experts have been saying for years that asking questions is super important when negotiating, but nobody really had solid proof until now. This research backs up that advice with hard data. They show that people often focus too much on trying to convince others with statements instead of trying to learn from them by asking questions. Think about it. Negotiations happen all the time, not just in big business deals, but in everyday life, like deciding chores with your partner or planning a family vacation. This study offers practical advice that anyone can use to get better results in these situations. The key takeaway is that you should try to ask open-ended questions more often. They help you uncover valuable information that can lead to better agreements and ultimately help you achieve your personal goals. It is not just about asking more questions. It is about asking the right kind of questions, those that invite explanation and deeper insight. This information gives you an advantage. It allows you to understand the other side better and find solutions that satisfy both of you, expanding the possibilities beyond just a simple give and take. So next time you're in a negotiation, try to shift your focus from just making statements to asking thoughtful, open-ended questions. It might just be the secret ingredient to getting more of what you want. The researchers also made an interesting observation. They found that while open-ended questions were great for gathering information, they didn't necessarily make people feel closer or build more rapport in negotiation settings. Unlike in more casual conversations, this suggests that in a negotiation context, the primary benefit of open-ended questions comes from the information you gain, not necessarily from building a stronger emotional connection. They even dug into the types of questions asked in Study 1. They found that questions focused on understanding priorities and integrative interests, those win-win trade-off type questions, were particularly linked to higher negotiation gains. So to wrap it up, this research is a strong reminder that in negotiations and even in everyday conversations, actively seeking to learn from others through open-ended questions can lead to much better outcomes for you. Personally, it is about understanding before being understood. The study confirms that we often talk too much and ask too little, especially when we are trying to get our way. So the big takeaway is to adopt an inquisitive mindset in your negotiations and conversations. Ask more open-ended questions to really understand what the other person is thinking, and needing this can help you create more value and achieve better personal gains without necessarily sacrificing the relationship. Now, it is important to remember that these studies were done with adults, mostly from Western countries and often on online platforms. So while the core idea is likely to apply broadly, it's a good reminder that specific cultural nuances or negotiating in person might offer slightly different results. But for most of us in our everyday negotiations, the advice is pretty clear: ask more open-ended questions and listen to the answers. It might be the simplest and most effective strategy to get more of what you want. Future research could explore things like what happens if you ask too many questions, or how this works in very high-stakes negotiations or even in different cultures. But for now, the message is pretty clear: be more curious when you negotiate. What do you think about these findings? Do you tend to ask a lot of questions when you negotiate, or do you find yourself mostly making statements? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more fascinating insights into the world of psychology. Until next time, stay curious.